10 Things I Hate About You is not about falling in love with a bad boy or about falling in love with a good boy, and it's definitely not about taming the untamable woman. It's about the relationship between two opposing sisters and how that relationship allows each of them to better themselves, and as a result of that, they find a love that complements how they've grown. This movie is loosely based on the Shakespeare play The Taming of the Shrew, but the play focuses on the love stories between the sisters and their suitors and transforming the shrewd sister into a blindly obedient, desirable partner, which is a very outdated concept. There is debate with whether she's in control of the marriage by the end, but regardless, in 10 Things, there's a greater focus on sisterhood, and their growth does not come at the cost of abandoning their true self. The strengths of one sister are initially the weaknesses of the other, which is what makes the relationship so interesting. I think this movie can often be reduced to stubborn feminist girl falls in love with hot bad boy, and they both live happily ever after. But I think the relationship dynamics between everyone have more depth than your typical teen movie and are what makes it stand out in the teen rom-com genre. So let's discuss what those relationships are, how they change, and how they impact the characters around them. Bianca is a sweet but vapid high school sophomore and the youngest in the Stratford household. When she's first introduced, her white sundress with pink flowers make her look innocent, feminine, and lovable, but from her very first line in the movie, we learn that when it comes to love, she has shallow priorities. Bianca explains how like and love are different because she likes her Skechers but loves her Prada backpack. She idolizes materialism and status over value. Quality shoes might be good, but a luxury purse is better. It's why Bianca likes Joey, a senior who's popular but who's mostly concerned with his good looks and modeling career. Bianca is also self-centered and enjoys attention, which is the opposite of her older sister Kat. This personality difference makes it difficult for them to understand each other and often leads to fights. This is the main difference between the sisters. Bianca loves popularity while Kat denounces anything a typical teenager would do. And here lies the problem. Bianca desperately wants to date, but her father, who is an OBGYN and all too familiar with teen pregnancy, is against it. To keep his daughter safe, he makes a rule that Bianca can only go out with a boy once Kat does, and considering her sister's history, it won't be anytime soon. And that's when the already existing tension between them increases. Bianca feels suffocated by her father's over-exaggerated fear and irritated by her sister's unwillingness to help. Enter Cameron, the new boy in school, who falls for Bianca at first sight and signs up as her French tutor. Now, while Bianca isn't book smart, she can be strategic when it's in her favor. When Cameron asks her out, she manipulates his affection so that he'll find a date for Kat. She implies they can go out once this happens, but she's using him. She can't even get his name right and would run to Joey if the plan works. Bianca's greatest desire is a fun, normal teenage life. In her view, that means partying with the cutest boys, having the most popular friends, and being loved by everyone. From Bianca's perspective, Kat is selfish to not help her since she's Bianca's one lifeline to freedom, but what she doesn't know is that Kat's actions towards Bianca stem from protectiveness. The first example of this is the bathroom scene when Kat tells Bianca she doesn't need to be what others expect of her. It's the first attempt Kat makes to teach Bianca to think for herself. Just because everyone goes to parties or every girl likes the same guy doesn't mean you should too. But the message doesn't register. Bianca likes adoration and popularity, and if she were like Kat, she wouldn't get any. The pearls she wears are an example of her conceitedness. They belong to their estranged mother, and Bianca likes them solely for vanity, and Kat is offended she'd claim something so sentimental for such a selfish reason. Where Bianca has weaknesses, Kat has strengths. Bianca is selfish, vain, and naive. Kat is grounded, a critical thinker, and aggressively independent. While Kat has good intentions to help her sister learn these traits, her lecturing strategy isn't effective. It's only when Bianca experiences things for herself that her perspective becomes more informed. transformed. And that's only possible when Kat helps her to experience things like deciding to go to Bogey's party. At her first house party, Bianca finally spends time with her crush, but quickly realizes he isn't as enjoyable as she imagined. He only talks about himself, his modeling, and when she becomes disinterested, he turns to the closest person who will listen to him. By the end of the night, she's creating excuses so she doesn't have to attend the after party with him. It takes very little time for Bianca to realize what she doesn't want, something she wouldn't have determined if she wasn't given the chance to. She probably would have continued to pine after him. As the audience, we know how terrible of a person Joey is. His true intentions with Bianca are to sleep with her. Bianca doesn't know this. All she sees is his failed attempts at being charming, and it's here that we learn Bianca has a stronger sense of self than we thought. Yes, she's innocent, but she isn't clueless. She could have proceeded with a relationship with Joey to impress her friend or to enhance her popularity, but she chose her own standards. Afterwards, it's back to square one when Kat decides she isn't going to prom, so Bianca can't go either. It's understandable that Bianca would be so upset because she's had a taste of freedom and loved it, even learned from it, but now she's restricted from experiencing anything else. Like in the bathroom scene, Kat tries to comfort her again, but this time she explains why she doesn't want to attend prom. Bianca learns Kat went out with Joey when she was younger. It was right after their mom left, so we can assume Kat maybe dealt with this hardship with a little bit of rebellion. She slept with Joey because that's what everyone else was doing, and when she didn't want to do it anymore, he broke up with her. This experience led Kat to believe that doing things because other people are isn't a good reason to do something, and therefore she isn't going to prom. She also knows how slimy Joey is and wants to protect her sister from experiencing the same pain. This is an important moment for Kat, which we'll discuss later, but this is also where we learn Bianca's true frustrations. At this point, Bianca is already disinterested in Joey, but Kat doesn't know that. Bianca was able to see through Joey, unlike Kat was. Instead of accepting her sister's attempt to make peace, Bianca becomes angry. She feels she's been caged. How is not letting her know or experience anything protecting her? How can she become independent or learn anything for herself? Kat never told Bianca this story because she wanted Bianca to make up her own mind about Joey, but how can she do that if she isn't even allowed to go on one date to figure it out? Even more so, Bianca doesn't have the luxury to make decisions for herself like Kat does. Whatever Kat decides, that's what she's stuck with. If Kat doesn't date, then she can't either. But if Bianca could make decisions for herself, she would be dating. How can she even take Kat's own advice of doing things for your own reasons when her decisions aren't her own? After, we see Bianca look mournful and Kat is sympathetic because Bianca has a point. They likely spoke more to each other afterwards because Kat does decide to go to prom so her sister can experience it. You can also see that Kat wears Bianca's pearls, which is a symbol of understanding and their stronger bond. In turn, when Bianca learns about Joey's plans with her, she punches him as revenge, not only for herself, but for her date and for Kat. Just like how Kat is wearing Bianca's pearls, Bianca acts as aggressively as Kat would. Also, P.S., this was foreshadowed by the English teacher in the beginning. So through her own experiences, Bianca learns to stand up for herself and make decisions on her own terms, like Kat tried to teach her. I love how much Bianca mirrors her sister in the end. They started off this movie fighting and at each other's throats all of the time, but they're a lot more similar than they thought than they were in the beginning. Bianca even subverts expectations like Kat because you wouldn't expect this sweet innocent girl to beat up the high school senior, but she breaks his nose. While Kat is the one who encourages this independence in Bianca, it's Cameron that gives her an effective wake-up call. For most of the movie, Bianca has used Cameron, knowing full well his feelings towards her, just so she can date Joey. It's honestly pretty terrible of her. At Bogey's party, Bianca runs into Cameron while she's with Joey. Cameron's been pining for her this whole time and masterminded a date for Kat just so he could be with her. But then he realizes she was using him and never liked him in the first place. But when Bianca learns Joey is very dull, she starts to notice Cameron in a different light. When he gives her a ride back, he's honest with her. He calls her selfish, he helped her when she asked him to, he defended her when she was called conceited, he learned French for her. He's hurt because she wasn't truthful about not liking him. He tells her that just because she's pretty, it doesn't give her a free pass to treat people poorly. And then she kisses him. This might seem like odd timing, but Cameron has just listed off all his genuine good qualities and held up a mirror to her bad ones. They're the exact traits that Joey embodies: selfish, conceited, vain, ungrateful, and manipulative. Someone who she now knows she doesn't want to be with or to be like. When he asks her if she's always been this selfish, she says yes. So now she's a lot more self-aware of her actions and how they've affected people. And so this kiss is a decision to embrace kindness and change and a genuine good person. By the end, Bianca has improved her judgment skills, learns who truly cares about her, and stands up for herself and others, even if it's against what would make her popular. She's strengthened her relationship with Kat, now understanding her better, and even thanks her for going to prom for her. Bianca still wants a boyfriend and likes school dances, but now she's more appreciative, grateful, and humble. Bianca's character is seemingly centered on love, wanting it but not having it, but her character is more about the disadvantages of overprotectiveness and selfishness, how a lack of experience can lead to poor decision-making, ignorance, and naivety. There's an important lesson about what a healthy level of protectiveness is. Her father is afraid she'll get pregnant and that his youngest daughter won't need him anymore. Kat fears Joey will take advantage of her and that she'll make poor decisions out of peer pressure. Both her father and Kat have very valid reasons and good intentions to keep Bianca safe. Pregnancy is a real risk and it can happen, and Joey is definitely not boyfriend material. The problem is that her family holds her back from all life experiences because of every single possible danger. Instead of educating her and guiding her in the choices that she makes, by restricting her from everything, this only makes her more eager. She manipulates a well-intentioned boy to get around her dad's rule. She lies and attempts to sneak out. She fights with her sister and crushes on boys that aren't good for her. If you withhold everything from someone like knowledge and experiences, how will they learn from their mistakes if they can't make any? How will they discover themselves as a person? Can they develop healthy decision-making skills? Protectiveness out of love is important and absolutely necessary to a certain degree, but not when it becomes a prison. By the end, Bianca learns that what she thought she wanted and what everyone else wanted isn't right for her. She discovers how ugly conceitedness is, but she only learns these things through experience. With the support of her family, she can continue to have new experiences and learn to make good choices for herself, like having a healthy relationship with Cameron. Kat Stratford is Bianca's strong-willed and non-conforming feminist older sister. Unlike Bianca, Kat is outspoken, denounces cliches, and has no problem if her opinions are unpopular. Because of her seemingly harsh ways, Kat is branded as a so-called difficult woman, and even the guidance counselor says she needs to work on her personality. Kat isn't afraid of a fight, verbally or physically, and is self-aware of her hostile reputation. At school, Joey makes fun of her, and she's quick to throw insults back. Her aggressiveness often gets her in trouble, and she even describes herself as tempestuous. But Kat is also intelligent, athletic, and artistic. She's passionate about writing, music, and soccer, and is well-read, particularly on feminist authors. She's also accepted into her top college choice, Sarah Lawrence, a liberal arts school in New York. This is especially exciting for her because it's on the other side of the country where she can be independent from her annoying sister and protective father. Kat is a self-proclaimed feminist of the 90s. She isn't concerned with following conventional feminine roles or traits. She's not a damsel in distress. A key mantra that we hear Kat say throughout the movie is that she doesn't like to do what's expected of her, and so she rejects the idea that women are soft, mild-mannered, and submissive. Essentially, what her sister embodies, she avoids. Fun fact, her life philosophy is written on the English classroom's wall. What's popular isn't always right, and what's right isn't always popular. But it's important to note that Kat does have a limited perspective of feminism. As her English teacher points out, she's still privileged as a white suburban middle-class woman, so there are definitely bigger problems that Kat isn't necessarily aware of. This particular point isn't a major theme in the movie. However, Kat's limited worldview in general does come up as a problem in other areas. Kat is also jaded from her past experiences, which has resulted in significant pent-up rage. She makes violent and impulsive decisions when she's angry or annoyed, especially with boys. In fact, most boys are afraid of her. When Cameron needs to find someone to date Kat so he can be with Bianca, he selects Patrick, the school's mysterious bad boy. Given that he was rumored to be in prison last year, he seems like the perfect fit. Patrick is paid by Joey, a pawn in Cameron's scheme who thinks he's going to win Bianca, to take her out. But Kat is absolutely not receptive to any of his advances, and so begins their tumultuous love story. Unlike Bianca, Kat is not concerned with boys. Kat's greatest desire is to attend Sarah Lawrence and control her own choices, but her father is against her moving away. Similar to Bianca, Kat is caged by her father, yet she's far more difficult to control. What's interesting about Kat's decision-making is that her motivations often conflict. Kat consistently says she doesn't care what people think, but she chooses to not attend parties and high school dances to make a statement. Her logic is that parties are an excuse for kids to drink and rub up against each other, and she doesn't support that, and that makes sense. But I think a main reason for her not attending these things is because it's what everyone else does. And Kat prides herself on not conforming to the crowd. Now, I don't think Kat is a pick-me. Her goal isn't to be different or quirky or so that guys like her. I do think her intentions genuinely stem from a good place, but she's still using what everyone else does to inform her decisions, only she just automatically does the opposite in the name of independence. Kat doesn't like to do what people expect, and yet she has become so rigid with this that she's unintentionally become predictable. Even her best friend and sister can complete her sentences. They know exactly what to expect from her. So in an attempt to be more liberated, this has actually made her a little bit close-minded. For example, Kat looks down on Bianca for her focus on popularity, and yet Kat does the exact same thing with anything that is unpopular. But Kat's refusal to participate in school dances and parties and traditions is definitely not bad if that is genuinely what she wants to do. Making a statement, especially if you don't support something, is a totally valid reason to not attend. However, a lot of these things are innocent teenage milestones, and both her sister and best friend argue that it's okay to have fun, and perhaps these experiences, even though everyone else is doing them, would make fun memories. However, Kat's belief system is incredibly important and does have a lot of merit because she isn't afraid to express her unique interests. Kat has learned who she is and what she likes outside of the echo chamber of high school, and she owns it. She isn't afraid to break boundaries, she's not easy to manipulate, and has unrivaled confidence. She doesn't need brand names or status or be socially conventional to feel validated. Striving to live life on her own terms and no one else's is admirable, and it's one reason why Kat tries to teach Bianca to be more independent. Kat's stance on no parties starts to break down though when Bianca begs her to go to bogeys. In this moment, Kat realizes how much Bianca is looking forward to going. Seeing her so excited and desperate makes her relent. So Kat is selfless and willing to put others' happiness before her own, and helping Bianca is the main reason she attends because she does not pay any attention to Patrick once she's there. At Bogey's party, Joey taunts Kat for being with Bianca, and this causes Kat to impulsively drink. She takes several shots and dances on a table, all of which are uncharacteristic of her. And it seems odd at first that Kat would let Joey get to her because she's so successfully put him in his place before. Later, we learn in Kat's heart-to-heart with Bianca why this one comment from Joey impacted her so much. Because of their history, which we have discussed earlier. Her short relationship with Joey is where her boy rage likely stems from, her belief system, and her protectiveness with Bianca. We know that Kat used to be popular, and when she was, she succumbed to peer pressure and regretted it. Then was unrightfully punished for speaking her own mind. Now Kat is less vulnerable with others and is against doing what others expect from her. This was such a significantly difficult moment for her that she wouldn't wish the same on her younger sister. She wants to protect Bianca. She wants to teach Bianca this same lesson without her having to deal with the pain. It's very natural for Kat to feel so triggered by Bianca being with Joey. She couldn't control him with her sister, and so she let go of control with herself. When Bianca expresses her frustrations of feeling overprotected, Kat begins to realize that her version of rights might not be right for someone else. She learns that she can't project her experiences onto others. Just because Bianca enjoys being popular, it doesn't necessarily mean she isn't going to make decisions for herself. Afterwards, she sees Bianca is so sad. This is like the saddest shot in the movie. Actually, no, it's not. It's the second saddest. Afterwards, she sees Bianca is sad because she isn't going to prom. Since Kat isn't going, neither can she. And I think Kat realizes that Bianca doesn't want to go to prom because it would make her look cool. After all, she's not going with Joey. Bianca wants to go because for her, it would genuinely be fun. Like Kat always says, you should do things for your own reasons, and if it were up to Bianca, she would go to prom. Kat learns that she doesn't always need to not do do something because it's popular. Through Bianca, she begins to understand that it's okay to have conventional interests and perspectives. It doesn't make you less intelligent. What's important is that if you're going to follow the crowd, that you're self-aware it's the right choice for you. You shouldn't do something just because everyone else is doing it, but if you do something that everyone else is doing, that doesn't make it bad. This is further proven when Kat shows up to prom because she actually does have a moment of fun. Patrick calls in her favorite band, which is something she wouldn't have experienced had she avoided it like normal. Kat's relationship with Patrick is also important for her growth. From her awful experience with Joey, she's built a harsh exterior so that she doesn't get hurt. She's also become incredibly independent. She's happy on her own and she doesn't need a relationship to complete her. When Patrick is initially paid to ask Kat out, he's forward with flirting with her and honestly has some very cringy pickup lines. He's acting like he'll sweep her off her feet and Kat's like, "You're probably just gonna take me to a 7-Eleven." Kat is annoyed and sees through his fake charm. She has no interest in dating, especially no interest in dating a guy who assumes she desires him. It's only when Cameron tells Patrick about Kat's interest that he starts to understand her better. After a little back and forth, Kat doesn't accept his invite to Bogey's party, but she doesn't reject him either. He picks her up anyway, and as she's having her unhinged moment, takes care of her. When Patrick shows genuine tenderness to her, Kat begins to like him. On the ride home, Kat reveals that her dad expects her to be more like Bianca, but she will never be like that. Patrick is honest about also being difficult and tells her that even though Bianca seems to be loved by everyone, it's Kat that stands out for him. In this scene, you can also see how compatible they are for each other because they both say that everyone thinks that they're scary, but really they're just misunderstood. Patrick's honesty intrigues Kat. Again, this isn't what she expected and she leans in for a kiss, but he rejects her. To his credit, he doesn't want to take advantage of her when she's drunk and he's starting to feel guilty about the fact that he was literally paid to take her out that night. And this does not go over well. From Kat's perspective, how can he put in all this effort in order to pursue her and then just reject her? Additionally, Kat is not one to open up emotionally, so she's embarrassed and angry. The only way Patrick can make amends with her is when he sacrifices his dignity as an apology. Since he embarrassed her, he embarrasses himself. And so he sings to her in public, making his feelings known. And it works. And here you can see me muting this scene because I can't watch it. I don't know what it is about this scene, but I get such severe secondhand embarrassment. And I know that's so bad to say because I know so many people love this scene, but I fast forward it every single time. I cannot watch it. I honestly don't know where this comes from because I can watch High School Musical with like no problem, but for some reason in this scene, my brain just decides that this is where we draw the line. But what's important is that for Kat, this is really effective and she likes it. Then they have the cutest little date day ever. Now that Kat has forgiven him, she starts to feel comfortable with him again and she opens up to him. Kat reveals to Patrick that she doesn't like to do what others expect. If people are disappointed from the start, you can never truly disappoint them. But Patrick tells her that he was never disappointed with her to begin with. And this is really important because it points out a hole in Kat's way of thinking. She can't always know what people expect of her. Kat's brutal honesty and less conventional ways are what intrigued Patrick rather than put him off her like she expected. Then there's this whole paintball fight and they kiss and it's so cute, but this bliss doesn't last long because they are a very turbulent couple. Kat becomes suspicious when Patrick pushes her to go to prom, which is something she isn't intending on doing, again, to make a statement. At this point, we have to remember that Patrick is still getting paid and helping Cameron, and Kat suspects there's something in it for him, and Patrick gets defensive because there is. And then this perfect day ends with a fight. It's very rude if you ask me. Now, fast forward, we know that Kat ends up going to prom, but it's on her own terms and it's for Bianca. She apologizes for questioning his motives and Patrick forgives her, which this is really when he should have come clean because clearly he needs to apologize to her because his motives really were like partially bad. But you know, we can't do that because we need suspense for the plot. Kat then overhears the truth that Joey paid Patrick to take her out and she's furious again. This is the second time he's hurt her and the second time she learns he isn't who she thought he was. She storms out of the prom, rightfully so, and in the next scene she has some self-reflection. Her and her sister are on good terms, but she's clearly hurt with Patrick. And this is the scene when her dad realizes she's growing up up and becoming independent. And we learn that he doesn't actually want her to be like Bianca. He's just sad that she's growing up. He ends up giving her his blessing to attend Sarah Lawrence, and they share a moment of understanding and happiness. Then we get to the most heartbreaking scene in rom-com cinematic history. Kat volunteers to read her poem assignment to the class. I love this scene because it's a beautiful representation of her journey throughout the whole movie. I mentioned in the beginning that the sisters have opposing strengths and weaknesses. One of Bianca's strengths is her natural vulnerability and emotional openness, which is something that Kat typically hides. And that's why this poem is so important, because she isn't trying to win Patrick back or to make him feel bad or to prove a point. She's simply stating how she feels publicly. And what's funny is that she tries to do the unexpected throughout this whole movie, which ends up being what people have come to expect from her, but this poem is genuinely something that people wouldn't expect. It doesn't match her tough persona. And this is similar to how her costume design is less harsh here. It's the first time she wears white, which is typically a vulnerable color. And if you're interested, I do have shorts on the costume design in this movie, which you can go check out after you finish watching this video. This level of vulnerability is a huge step for her, considering how Kat's journey starts. Like the list of things she hates about Patrick, Kat is initially closed off in the beginning. She's against her father, her sister, society expectations, and boys. But by the end, she's formed closer relationships with everyone and come to understand that going against societal expectations isn't always necessary. And these resolutions only happen when she becomes more open with her perspectives and feelings, which is also how the poem ends. By the end of the movie, Kat and Patrick do end up together. He used the money from Joey to buy her a guitar, which is a kind gesture because he actually listened to her when she said she wanted to start a band. However, I do think he's going to have to do a little more than that. I would have loved some apology or accountability, but it's fine. I always felt like there was a little bit of disconnect between this scene and the poem scene, but you can see that Kat definitely does expect more from him when she says he can't always just buy her a guitar every time he messes up. So they probably do have a conversation afterwards, or at least that's what I like to think. Patrick and Kat are really great together though, because they both balance each other out quite well, and they're both each other's match. They both aren't perfect, but they both accept each other for who they are, even when everyone else in society tries to make it seem like they have terrible reputations. Kat's story is not about changing for a boy. It's about vulnerability and learning that just because something doesn't fit into an ideology you've boxed yourself into, it doesn't mean that it's bad. I think 10 Things I Hate About You is a good example that you can have interesting and strong female characters, regardless if they are feminine and boy crazy or not. Bianca is ultra feminine throughout this whole movie, and her greatest desire is to have a boyfriend. By the end, she still likes pink and gets to dance with the boy she likes, but this doesn't diminish who she is as a character because she's dynamic outside of these traits. She learns to make better decisions and be less conceited through life experiences. And Kat is still a fiery feminist whose greatest desire was never about boys. She'll attend the school she originally planned, now armed with a more well-rounded worldview. Most importantly, she's learned to be vulnerable, and this isn't the same as taming a wild woman, so she acts how society wants her to act. This is important personal growth. If you're unable to be vulnerable, you block yourself from love and close relationships. If you blindly oppose everything because it's what's expected of you, you could lose out on positive new experiences. Kat doesn't change for a boy, and she doesn't lose her true self, she just adds to it. In the beginning, both sisters think that the other's way of living life is wrong, but by the end, they both realize that they're different and that they can actually both learn from each other. I think girly movies are often written off as very silly, and I mean, there are movies like that do exist, don't get me wrong, but there's also so many that I think we can appreciate a lot more. So subscribe if you'd like to see that. I appreciate you so much, and I hope you have the best day and the best night. Thank you so much for watching.